This conference will now be recorded.
Thanks once again, guys. Good morning, good evening. Who joined today? I'm Satish. Um, I have just a quick introduction about me before we go into the demo session today. So I have close to 13, 14 years of experience in IT, and overall, I've been a mainframe developer, and then being a performance tester, performance engineer, performance lead, performance architect, and also been part of the product development for 2 to 3 years. So it's a combination of majority into performance testing engineering architect, plus also with the development experience. So that is my summary of my skill set, what is I have gained over those 13, 14 years in IT. Worked across multiple customers, multiple regions, North America as well as in India. So that's a very short summary of my experience and skill set. Okay. So coming to this our performance engineering session. Um, so we have designed this course in such a way that it is going to it's kind of a tailor made with whatever experience what I have gained over the time, not a kind of a book your what you typically see it in Udemy or other places, right? It is more of a tailor made courses that what we see in today's expectation from our customers, or what is something expected in the job market, or something what is expected in the projects. So that is how we have mix and matched various topics and then made this course. So today what we will see is I'll explain all the topics what we are going to learn over this entire course, right? It's close to 25 to 28 hours of course over the next 4 to 5 weeks. And today, what I will try to do is, as a learner, for you to understand what you're going to learn over these 4 to 5 weeks of a period, I wanted to make sure you get all the topics that we are going to cover. Right. So today I'll go over the all the topics that we are going to cover so that you will understand. So before that, right, before we go to the course content and what are the various topics that we are going to learn, so I believe that most of you might be a performance tester, would be doing either the end-to-end from a scripting, non-functional requirements, load execution, stress executions, as analysis and reporting. So most of you might be doing all this end-to-end from NFR to sign off, or probably a couple of you might be doing only scripting and execution, or there might be some QA leads who will be overseeing the entire manual automation or performance. So you could be of multiple um, uh, roles and responsibilities, right? Now, with your current skill set, with your current role, you're performing something that is best to your skill set and that is expected in the your organization. But when you wanted to be upskilling yourself to move to the next level in your current job or current role or other organization, or what is next expected in the um, what is next expected in the current IT world, current job market, current performance testing projects, right? Now, with Agile, with DevOps, with Pods team, all these things are coming into picture, right? So most of these roles are getting squeezed, which means there are places where automation tester is expected to do performance testing. We have seen that in quite a number of projects where they have only 4 to 5 people in a team, a couple of developers, one QA person who has to do both functional and performance, right? So which means certain activities are going to be merged. So say for example, scripting is going to be something which can be done both by a functional tester and automation tester, because even in automation testing, they have to create scripts. Even in performance testing, we need to create scripts. So the activity like scripting can be done by other teams as well, which means your role in your current project might become questionable, because when automation tester can do scripting, what is that you're going to do, right? So scripting can be automated, and we have seen the tools like Dynatrace or AppDynamics as well, right? Just for getting metrics alone, it is going to be very easy for any non-technical person also, because that is how they design the tool. So which means we as a performance tester has to upskill ourselves to a complete niche area, which cannot be invaded by other non-technical people or functional testers, right? So that is why it is very important for us to go to the next level, just not to be with just a scripting or just basic execution. We have to upskill ourselves to the performance engineering area, so that it will remain niche. It is not going to be easy for a even for doing a proper analysis, creating proper execution scenarios. You need a lot of experience and a lot of skill set that cannot be acquired by acquired by the other functional testers, right? So performance engineering is something, as a next step, we have to upskill ourselves, so that we will remain niche in the current working scenario. And it is very good to upskill ourselves from a performance tester to engineer, so that not only in your current organization, not only in the agile projects, everywhere you go, you will get that respect, you will get that role as well, right? Performance tester, if you see, typically we get 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 2 month window for testing, because you have a release, and just before the release, 1 month before, 2 months before, we get into it, because that is when we get a full-fledged environment license for your tool, all these things. But if you see a performance engineer, he can be throughout the life cycle, right from your requirement, your design, your development, testing, production. We'll look into all these various activities that we'll do it across life cycle, which means the role of a performance engineer will be spread across the SDLC, so that your importance will be felt right from the beginning, not just during the testing phase or just before production moment, right? So whereas a performance tester will be there in a typical, if you look into a 6 month project or 8 month project, right? A performance tester might be involved in last 2 months or 2.5 months. But if you see a performance engineer, you will be there for more than 5 months, which means your role is getting extended. You would be required for the more duration, which means your demand as well will increase. So that is why it is very important for you to a lot of reasons are there for you as a next step, as a next level of skill set. It's very important for you to move to performance engineering role. Current job market also expects that in agile world, scripting will get automated. Scripting can be done by other people. So which means for you to be a niche, performance engineering is going to be very, very important. Okay. And when it comes to performance engineering or performance optimization, right? Um, it is going to be combination of multiple skill set. Okay. As you see it in the diagram, testing, of course, you have to be good in the testing, which you already doing it. Okay. And then when you say about programming, right, it is not a hardcore application development. It is more about understanding things from the developer shoe. Okay. So it's very important to talk to the developers on their own language, so that it will be easily understandable by them. Also, they will agree upon what we say. Most of the places, when we go and raise defects, when we go and say response time problem, when we say performance issue, people will always try to be opposing us with saying our scripts are not correct, our test data is not correct. It's always going to be difficult in convincing architects and developers, right? That is why it's very important for us to be little technical, little developer oriented, so that we can also go and explain them typically in terms of their own language, and they also will feel we uh, confident on our numbers, right? Rather than just going and seeing response time is high, we have seen so many errors. But if you put your other aspect into picture, saying we have analyzed it, we have done the early profiling, we have done the deep dive diagnostics, we have problem with this method, we have the problem with the object. So talking in terms of the programming kind of discussions is going to be really, really will help us in going and convincing the developer. So we'll also try to see how we are going to bring in that flavor. We're not going to go hardcore. We are not going to become a Java developer or a hardcore programmer with this course, but definitely we should get that what to say, that ice to be broken, right? I mean, what is the developer is going to do, or how he is going to develop the code, what are all the things that are going to be part of the Java developer. Those things, if you learn few basics, it is going to make a lot of difference. So when it comes to performance engineering, programming is going to be a very small part, but though that small part will make you a lot of give you a lot of confidence, and it will help us to win a lot of arguments when it comes to discussions. And system analysis is a complete thing. Is comes under system analysis. Your be it database analysis or your application analysis, JVM benchmarking, leak analysis. All these things will come under system analysis. And then with networking and administration, most places we need to go and install tools, install softwares, and then deploy the code, start the servers, start the Tomcat servers. So it is important for us to understand few things with respect to system administration as well, so that a lot of places you cannot expect people to come and install you tools, right? You as a performance engineer, you should be able to set up your own environment, set up your own JVM, deploy your application, right? The combination of all these skills. So testing and system analysis is going to be majority. You should be very good at it. And then programming and network administration, it is good to at least certain things if you learn, that will make you a very good a performance engineer. Okay, so we'll look into it in detail in the coming sessions. So as I was mentioned about this is what we have done is a tailored way of course, right? What is expected in this today's market, a performance engineer should be able to go and analyze the architecture and come up with a performance engineering strategy as per the application need. You should be good in testing tools, of course, and you should be able to do the monitoring from end to end. And then you should be able to do all these heap analysis, memory leak analysis, heapdom, threaddom, garbage collection analysis, JVM benchmarking, and then your database analysis, client side, not only client testing, it's more about client side profiling or engineering. So combination of all these things is what expected in the when you say you are going to be a performance engineer. Just not by just using a Dynatrace or AppDynamics APM tool, we cannot be a performance engineer, right? Because as I mentioned, these tools are now very, very smart, made things very easy for even non-technical person to look into these metrics. But how are you going to correlate this metrics? How are you going to analyze these metrics and come up with a proper deep dive diagnostics? How are you going to use various profiling tools? How are you going to come up with a monitoring strategy? Whether you will be able to do a database analysis using AWR reports, right? All these things are going to be part of a performance engineer role. We will spend more time on this for you to understand this better, and how this is going to spread across the SDLC cycle. This is how during a requirement stage, you as a performance engineer have to look into the non-functional requirement. You have to look into the product requirements, what an end user is going to do, and come up with a proper NFR analysis agreed upon by different stakeholders. And during design phase, a performance engineer has to map between your design document or architecture, what a development team will come upon, and compare that with the non-functional requirement. Whether the login design will match 3 milliseconds or 3 second response time SLA. Whether this kind of a technology stack, you have a Java component, you have a Kafka, you have a middleware, you have a mainframe. With this 4 components, will you be able to meet the 5 second response time for your login? Right? Those kind of a discussion, those kind of analysis performance engineer has to do, so that we know that response time of 5 second SLA is not even going to be possible before even we test it. That is something we as a performance engineer has to play a role in the design as well. And then during development, work along with the developer for all these profiling, leak analysis, hotspot analysis, client-side profiling, and then during the testing, JVM benchmarking. So all these things are going to be a various activity that you do at various stages of your SDLC. Okay, now we've just seen what is it required for a performance engineer, why it is required, and then what are all things he is going to do across various SDLC cycle. Right? We'll also look into it in detail during the course, but this is more of a just an introduction about how this engineering is going to work in a typical SDLC. Now coming to our course, right? Our performance engineering topics. So this is the list of various topics that we will cover during the course. Okay, so if you see in the beginning, right, we wanted to what to say, most of the time we will have this initial roadblock, right, when we move to performance testing to engineering. Even I had, right, is it possible for me to become an engineer? Is it possible for me to go and do all these profiling, all these technical things, and then convey those recommendations? When I go to say response time is more, that time itself people come and question about our accuracy or correctness. Now, when I'm going to talk about their own code, saying their code is having a response time problem, or having this method is having a problem, or this object is having a memory problem, I mean, is it possible for me to do it? That is kind of a roadblock. Everybody will have it, and even I had when I started this, right? So we wanted to the way we structure this courses, not just go into the all the tools or profiling straight away. It is more for us to get the basics right, right? As it told in the beginning, that programming part, where to bridge that gap between a developer and a performance engineer, right? We are not going to be hardcore engineer, hardcore performance, hardcore programmer, but it is very important to start with the basics. Try to understand how a developer is going to develop a code, develop an application, and then deploy it, right? So from a concepts, we will start with the concept. We'll start with the Java basics. We will try to create a few programs. We'll try to understand few very important concepts, and then we'll go and create small programs, and then we'll go and see how a typical application is developed, how a database connection is made, how an HTTP connection is made. All these things we actually will identify problems in that, right? We'll identify problem with the database connection, response time to a third party calls. So all these things we typically do it as a performance tester or engineer, but we will put ourselves in a developer shoe. So starting the course, even if we don't know anything about programming or Java development, that is well and good, because we're just going to look into the basics, right? The Java basics, programming basics, small programs will go and create using Eclipse. We'll compile it, we'll run it, and then we look into a typical web application, what are all various aspects in the web application, and then our database connection is made, our third-party connection is made, and all those external libraries, how do we add it, and then get into a WAR file, how do we go and deploy it in the Tomcat, and then make your application up and running. All these things practically we will do it as part of the concepts and programming. And then we'll go into the JVM basics, try to understand various things that are available as part of the JVM. Within the JVM, how it works, various components of JVM, execution engines, your memory structures, or your thread. All these JVM basics we will start with, and then we will go into our each and every topic of your engineering. So we'll set the base initial a couple of days. We'll try to understand the basics, and then we'll go to the other sections. Okay. So when I say other section, you can see it sequentially. So we'll start with the early performance or profiling. We will create a way in such a way that you as a performance engineer, day one you getting into a project, it's a greenfield implementation. We will use a real application for our complete engineering. So this is how we are going to learn, right? We will build a code, we'll deploy it, we will test it, we'll identify problem, we'll go and profile, and then we'll go and recommendation. We'll do a recommendation, right? I have this in my Eclipse. I have the entire set of programs. I have this e-library application, okay, which is complete web-based application, right? So we will go and create problems in this code, right? If you see, I have I'll just go to this application and see how it is going to look. So this is the sample of this is the application, web application, which we are going to use it. and this will have a login for admin login. It will have a librarian login. So like, it's an e-library application, and then it will have a couple of transactions in that to view the librarians, to add the librarians, edit the librarians. So it's all deployed in a Tomcat server, and this is what we'll use it for all our analysis, testing, profiling, everything. And we'll also have a separate code for creating problems. I have separate code for response time analysis, creating response time analysis problem, right? And similarly for thread lock issues, for memory leak, so for GC, for everything we have a separate a code that we will go and change it. So we'll go to the each and every program admin login. We'll create problems. Then we'll go and test it. So as a developer, I'll go and deploy it, and then as a tester, we'll go and find problems, and then as an engineer, we'll go and troubleshoot the problem using the profiling tools or various tools, and then we'll see at code level what is the problem. That is how we will try to learn this. So we'll build, we'll deploy, we'll test, we'll identify performance problem, and then we'll go and diagnostics, and then recommend the whatever changes that has to be done for fixing it. And that's how we are going to do it. This is completely practical oriented. Everything will have a concepts which we'll talk about, and then we will go and do it and so on. That is how we'll learn it. Okay. So the response time analysis, debugging issue, how to identify response time problem from an early performance perspective. Looking into the your access logs, and then looking into the JProfiler kind of a tool, looking into the Chrome dev tools, combination of all these things we will come into, will consider for analyzing your response time problem, debugging the response time issues as part of your early profiling. Okay, and similarly then we'll go into the concepts of Java heap and stack, and then we look into memory leak analysis. Again, we will use couple of tools, plus combination of we will go and create the memory leak in the code, and then we'll go and will not go and I'll have a code already available, so that you as a tester or engineer, you will not know where is the problem. We'll try to debug that problem, understand that, and then come to the code and fix it. That's how we are going to do it. And then heap dump analysis, and then garbage collection analysis, and then we'll go and understand the concepts of Java threads, and then your thread dump analysis for thread contentions, and then we'll go into the client side analysis for the from a front end performance perspective. Okay, and then we will look into monitoring strategy, how to create monitoring strategy, how to look into the architecture, and as an engineer, how to create a comprehensive monitoring strategy. And as part of the monitoring, we'll also look into AppDynamics for monitoring. Say, for example, currently the e-library application, whatever I showed you, right, that is connected to the AppDynamics cloud. So we'll look into how to configure the AppDynamics with the Java application, how to do how that instrumentation is going to work with the Java application, and then what are the various sections in the AppDynamics that you will use it for your analysis, debugging, troubleshooting. We'll run some load test, and we'll look into all these your memory analysis, or your database calls, slow running calls, all the business transaction level details, and then to set the alerts, to set the thresholds. So whatever I say, for example, admin login, right? E-library / admin login is something, it's running in my local here, right? This one. So all the transaction, whatever I run it in the local, my local Java application, that analysis will be available in the AppDynamics cloud. So we'll see how to set up this AppDynamics in the cloud, how to configure it in your Java application, and how to monitor all these business transactions, setting the thresholds, complete AppDynamics from an engineering point of view. We'll look into it. And then we'll also look into some of the open source monitoring also, because a lot of places now people started using open source monitoring for the infra. So we'll look into the Telegraph, InfluxDB, Grafana combination for open source infra monitoring. And then using these tool stack, right, combination of your tech stack, AppDynamics, other things, we'll try to do the bottleneck analysis. We will run some test. Say I have a JMeter scripts for the same e-library application. So we'll try to run some test and then identify bottlenecks in the using these tools. Combination of these tools, combination of your Abdynamics, your tick stacks, and then your JConsole. Combination of all these things, we will typically create real-time scenario. How do we go and do this bottleneck analysis? Okay. And then we'll also go into the database architecture completely from Oracle perspective, your process architecture, memory architecture, how Oracle is designed, various common problem within what we encounter from a performance perspective within Oracle. We'll go and see how to set up the snapshots in Oracle database, how to enable the AWR reporting, and then we'll also look into the AWR analysis as well. And then once we see all these things, right from your Java basics or JVM basics, JVM benchmarking, response time analysis, heap analysis, GC analysis, Java thread dump analysis, monitoring, Abdynamics, and then we will go into see how to create this engineering strategy, right? So initially we used to have an engineering strategy at the beginning, but that will be very, very theoretical, right? But we wanted to look into all the aspect of performance engineering. And then when I'm going to talk about these non-functional requirements and an engineering strategy, it will be easy for you to understand. Okay, we have learned all the things. Now we are going to put across everything into a strategy. How a engineering strategy will be designed for any application. That is something we'll look into it from a concept perspective. Okay. And then more from the future readiness, right? So though we are good in performance engineering or testing, right? But most of the places people talk about DevOps, people talk about some cloud performance, resiliency, auto scaling. All these things are something buzzword or something very commonly asked in most of the places. So we'll also spend good time in understanding these DevOps concept, integrating this JMeter or AppDynamics with Jenkins, how a typical continuous testing will work, how to create pipelines, how pipeline works in a DevOps world. So all these things we'll look into that from a future readiness perspective, introduction to DevOps. Similarly, introduction to cloud also we look into it, how things are changing in the cloud, various cloud tools, how resiliency is important, what are the various additional scenarios you as an engineer, what additional scenarios you have to design in the cloud, auto scaling, during auto scaling, what will happen, what we should look into it, what are the configuration we will have to do for auto scaling. So all these things from a future readiness perspective also we will look into it, right? So if you see the way we have structured this course, we'll start with the basics. We'll make sure you understand what is the method, what is the object, how a typical program is developed, how it makes a connection with JDBC, how it makes a connection with the third party, and then we'll go into all these engineering steps, and then we'll land it and we'll conclude with the engineering strategy. And then we have seen a lot of places people ask questions in the interview, in the project, about DevOps, about Jenkins, about integration, about feedback, about pipeline. So we wanted to make sure you don't miss that as well, right? That will be a void if at all you go and you talk about engineering stuff. People ask about this DevOps, cloud, auto scaling. If you don't able to answer it, again it will be a little not comfortable thing, right? So also make sure you gain that knowledge as part of a complete package. Okay, so this is what we will try to learn as part of the entire course. Okay, um, and all these things, right? Whatever we are going to learn, it is going to be easy for you to repeat it in your laptop or a machine, because everything is either open source or it's going to be licensed. Even if it is a licensed tool, we will have a trial versions like AppDynamics or JProfiler, right? You can easily use it for at least 3 to 4 months. AppDynamics, you can use it continuously. There is a AppD Lite version available. With other tools as well, whatever you're going to learn, you will be able to use it, deploy it, and do a complete hands-on. And what's the minimum thing that is required from you? A laptop for you to work it out offline, right? You don't need to do it everything during online, but once a day is completed during a daytime or a weekend, at least if you can deploy all these code, all these jar files, war files, tools, softwares, everything in your laptop, you should be able to learn it with an hands-on experience, right? At least minimum you should have a laptop, a Java, Eclipse, you can install it. Tomcat, you can install it. We will provide you the code. We will provide you a WAR file, and all these tools, everything, right? So all these things, where to download, what to download, we will provide you a complete information through the Google Drive and Google Sheet. If you look into the Google Sheet, right, we will provide you all the links from where you can download this JProfiler or Visual VM or Tomcat or Eclipse, Java, MySQL. All these things will be available in the Google Sheet, which will share it to you once you get into the project, once you get into this course, once you enroll into a course. Similarly, all the artifacts, right? Whatever we look into, we learn in the session, all the code, from the response time analysis code, to the your scripts or your strategy, sample Java programs, what we will develop, right? All these code, your engineering strategy plans, your Oracle scripts, your couple of Oracle AWS reports, the configuration files, all these things will be shared through the your Google Drive. So this Google Drive access you will get it, and Google Sheet access you will get it, through which you will be able to set up your environment by yourself, and it's very easy to do it, right? Nothing complicated. All we need is the minimum thing that you can practice, right? Just that you need Eclipse, Tomcat, so that you can deploy the code, deploy the WAR file, and practice along with us. For that, the tools wise, Visual VM, JProfiler, JConsole, AppDynamics, and then those TickStack, Telegraph, InfluxDB, all these things are very easy to install and use it. Okay, so we recommend you to do this so that you will learn along with the course through hands-on. Okay, so I'll just go. I'll wanted to go over individual topics as well in detail. So from a Java basics, like thinking like a developer, what we are going to do, response time analysis, what we are going to do. All these things I'll try to explain you once we start the course, once you enroll, right? So you will know exactly what you're going to get for each of these very much in detail. Okay. So before I go do that, if you have any questions, guys, do you have any questions on the course content, course topics, um, course timing? Any questions you have, probably put it in the chat, or you can also probably unmute and you can probably ask these questions.
So Satish, when is that regular batch will start for this?
Regular batch is planned to start from tomorrow. So from tomorrow we'll start the course, Santosh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Satish. Hello, Satish. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I have two questions. The first one is the lectures that we are going to have, these sessions. Will they be recorded so that in case if we want to refer the sessions back, we would at least have a recorded copy?
Yeah, absolutely. So every day the sessions will be recorded like what we are recorded now, and then it will be available in the same day, end of the day. So morning, if you're going to have 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. record, in the evening around 4 or 5, you will get the recorded video, and that will be available for you for the entire course duration, and even after the course duration also, there is no limitation at all for next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 1+ years, you will get access to that videos, so that even if you're going to miss that session, right, for whatever reasons, you'll get that video in the same day.
Okay. My next question is, are we going to cover anything on the capacity planning and modeling side?
Capacity planning and modeling, we will discuss that, cover that during the JVM benchmarking. So we don't have a exclusive session for capacity modeling here, but definitely more from a capacity planning and JVM benchmarking. Yes, we will cover that during the one of the session.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Krish.
How long it takes this course? It is 25 to 27 hours is what we have been doing it for at least for 8, 9 batches with this topic, with this stated topic. It used to be 25 to 27 hours on an average. So which means the duration will be um, it 4 or 5 weeks probably. There might be some leave in between. Uh, so it's really 4 to 5 weeks. So it's literally Monday to Friday. Monday to Friday. So which means 25, 27 hours. So it will go till 5 weeks. That's is what has happened earlier. So 4 to 5 weeks is what you can estimate.
Okay. So, Satish, I have one more question. See the topics that we're going to cover, right? So obviously, after these sessions, we'll have to put our own time in learning things, trying those things ourselves practically. So these by learning these topics, it will enable us to be a performance engineer rather than being performance tester. So if someone has to move ahead and be into a performance architect role, what are the additional things that we need to cover?
See, if you wanted to move ahead to be a performance architect, you have to start working on the various applications, various situations, various problems. I think once you've done with this learning, um, to expand further, I think you have to start working in. We have to get an opportunity to work for you to go to that level for sure, because it's just that keep on learning is not going to work, right? And this is all these minimum things once you gain. Next step is to go and get that hands-on experience, right? Unless otherwise we go and see a real application, real problem solving. I think that is how we have done, and that is what I would recommend as well. See, you can obviously go and so for example, in your architecture, if there are going to be any specific database, say a MongoDB or Elasticsearch, right? You cannot keep on mastering every other component. So, but once you have that in your component, in your architecture, if there are problems, then you will have that mindset to go and explore, right? Mindset, confidence to go and explore and find it out. Nobody, no performance engineer will know everything at all for sure, but they will have a confidence, they will have mindset to do okay. There is a component, even though I don't know about it, I would be able to go and explore it. I'll go and see what are all tools available with that component. How can I go and get the logs? How can I go and troubleshoot it? That mindset is what you will get it once you complete this course and once you have this hands-on. Further, you need to work and then gain that knowledge, and over the time only we'll be able to be working as a performance architect, just not going and learning, just keep on learning to answer this.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Satish.
Yeah, whatever experience we have it, right? Whatever I have it, at least once you learn this, you will get a lot of confidence. Once you do hands-on, yes, absolutely. See that in your own laptop, you're having a application where you're creating the problems, and then you're using all these tools, various approaches. You're going to do end-to-end profiling, client-side profiling, server-side profiling, database analysis, AWR analysis, EBDM, ThreadDem, GC logs, all these things. Once you have seen it hands-on, right, then you will get the confidence. When there is a requirement, you will be able to go and do that. And then as you work along, you will see a lot of different architecture, different components, different problems. And then obviously we have to go to a mindset where, yes, beginning we'll not even know what is what. But I know I can do it. And that is how everybody do it. Developer, nobody knows development for every other languages or every other requirement, but they learn and do it. So initial kickoff, having that confidence is very important. That will make a lot of difference.
Right.
Okay, Satish, so I have one question related to process dump analysis. So are we going to cover that?
Process dump analysis. We will cover the heap dump, thread dump. When you say process dump, Can you explain that?
Whenever there is any issue with a process, we take a dump from our uh, say right from our task manager or somewhere. We can take a dump and we can analyze where exactly the process is causing problem.
Okay, okay. So process dump analysis, it is not part of this because it's more of an application performance engineering is what we are going to look into it. So which means we look into the within the application. Say if there are 10 process running in your mission, right? And out of this 10 process, we know that which is the one which our application is correspond to, right? There will be there's going to be a PID associated with each application, and our role or responsibility is to analyze a particular PID, right? Particular application. So within that PID, we will take a dump and then we'll analyze what is happening with each of the threads within that process, right? So for one process, for one PID, uh, 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 within that PID, the number of threads that are running, that dump analysis we will do it. That is something we'll have it in the course.
Okay. Okay.
So are we going to have this course 7 days a week?
Sorry, I'll just finish the question. So mostly what we'll do is if in a server, if multiple things are running, right? Ideally, we want only our application to be running in that machine. So if something else is also running, we obviously go and do a top command and then see what are all things that are running in that machine, and then see whether our process is taking more CPU. If that is the case, well and good. That is what it is expected because our application has to be running in that machine, which has to take the most of the CPU. If other things are running, we have to note down those process. It could be other background process or some batch jobs that will be running it, which we need to see why it is running in that machine. And on top of that, if our application is taking more CPU, that is where we go and take those thread them and then we'll analyze it.
Okay.
Okay. Timing, it will be same time what we started today. It's 7 a.m. IST. 7 a.m. IST to it will be 1 hour is what we will keep it 1 hour, 1 hour 15 minutes. We don't want to have exhaustive sessions. So 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes is the estimated time for. Sometimes maybe something is getting extended because of a lot of questions or some topics which has to have a continuity. We will go to 1 hour 20 minutes, 1 hour 22 minutes, but average 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes.
Okay. So do we have any channel? Let's say if we had a session today, if there are any doubts that we have while practicing something, do we have a channel to answer our queries before we get into next session?
Yeah, yes. So either WhatsApp group, there will be separate WhatsApp group formed among the people who that is one channel. Second channel is some background noise. Let me mute. Okay, thanks. So if you see the sheet where we will share the software links, right? The same sheet will also have the Q&A sheet. So this is something Q&A from previous sessions, right? So here you can go and add your questions. So the one, what are questions that you get during the session also, right? In between, while explaining, you get any questions, you can just put your question here. Or after the session, once you look into the video, or probably if you have any other question where you do answer, you can put this question so that it will get documented also. So at the end of the session, you'll get 30, 40, 50 questions, which everybody will have an access. Okay, so this is something I'll recommend so that the question will not go unnoticed. It will be answered. Even the WhatsApp group also will forget to answer it. But if you put it in the question answer sheet, it will get answered. So this is one of the mode. The immediate response mode could be WhatsApp group.
Okay. So are we going to have this training 7 days a week?
No. Monday to Friday.
Okay.
It's during the weekend will not have it. Weekend will purposefully. I mean, obviously, two reasons. We cannot have a 7 days. It's exhaustive for me as well as for people who are going to attend. That is number one. Number two, if at all you wanted to practice the weekdays, it's going to be difficult. So weekend, at least you can take time off to practice these and so on. So Monday to Friday is what we'll have it.
Satish, are you covering any Unix monitoring commands like top or any other commands?
Yeah,
I'm trying
so
to
we will
explain
cover.
that as well.
Correct. So typically there are two ways to do it, right? When it comes to Windows OS monitoring or Linux monitoring. Previously, we used to have all these VM stats, top commands to get into the CPU memory. That also we'll cover it to see how to get these statistics from the Linux machine. But on continuity of that, we'll also cover the stick stack where this is going to take this data from a Windows machine or Linux machine through a Telegraph plugin. So this will cover both Windows and OS, but Linux. But Linux monitoring through these important utilities as well will cover.
Satish. Hello.
There is some background noise.
Yeah, Satish,
Go ahead.
Santosh here. Yeah, any open source monitoring tools?
Yeah, from a monitoring perspective, we look into that. Okay, AppDynamics is not an open source, but our learning training, we can definitely use AppDynamics Lite. So the one which I'm using it, right? I'm using it for last 2 months or 3 months. This one, okay, and this will work. This AppDynamics Lite will work for you to get connected with one of your Java application. So which means you can definitely use it for your training learning, and then we'll also use this. I'll just show you this. Stack is what we will use it for the open source. Let me open it. So this Telegraph InfluxDB combination with Grafana or Chronograph is what we will use it. This one, just open it and show it. Yeah, so we will use this Chronograph or Grafana for the. So we'll go and install Telegraph. We'll go and install InfluxDB, and then we'll go and install the Grafana or Chronograph, and then we'll construct the dashboards for open source monitoring. Okay, this is the recorded video from my previous section. So all these tools are available in my mission, which we'll use it for our session anyway. So similar videos is what you will also get it if you go to the monitoring. Yeah, I have this Telegraph Chronograph, which we will install it and then we'll use it during a session. This is more of a recorded session from my previous course, which happened in 9th of February. I just wanted to for considering the time what we have now, I just wanted to show you since you asked us. So this Influx, Telegraph, and Grafana Chronograph is what we'll use it for the open source monitoring. Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
What kind of monitoring? Like, are we looking at that CPU memory? Is there anything else using
two levels of monitoring. In fact, there are a lot of levels of monitoring, right? One from the infra level monitoring, like your server CPU memory, your thread, your network bandwidths, all these things from whatever you see it in the perf mod, right? From OS perspective, whatever you see it in the top or VM stat. So all these things can be done easily through this Telegraph InfluxDB. Okay, we will automate all these data collection and analysis and reporting. And then with the AppDynamics, it's complete diagnostics, right? Application level diagnostics, business transaction response time, method level response time, your database query level response times. So all the diagnostics level you will get it from the AppDynamics. And very specific to the JVM level monitoring, we'll also use JConsole monitoring. So combination of your JVM level monitoring, complete application diagnostics using AppDynamics, and infra OS level using open source tech stack is what will be covered as part of the monitoring.
Yeah, thanks, Satish.
You can
Yeah,
actually
one
record
more
a
thing.
video
Uh,
anytime after the course is completed. There is no restriction with respect to the recorded videos. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, yeah, there is no restriction.
and also, what kind of strategy we can make, like if it's that application architecture is an Kafka or any other thing, it has a multiple components. Can you explain anything like how we set up a monitoring strategy in our
Yes.
course?
So that is what we will discuss. So obviously, there could be multiple components involved as part of the your application architecture, right? So in the monitoring strategy, what we will look into is how do we typically approach it, right? Let me open that particular course slide. So we'll during the monitoring strategy, right, before we go to the AppDynamics or tech stack, all these things, we'll try to understand what are the various monitoring classification available from a different point of view, and then how do we typically go and study the application architecture, and then for typical deployment diagram or technical flow diagram, right? So what are the various components available, and then for each component, what are the tools available for, say, for example, Kafka you asked, right? Kafka is another Java-based tool by itself. Kafka is a Java-based application, which means Kafka will have these JVM in which it will be running. It will have a heap. JConsole is available for you to monitor the Kafka. And then within Kafka, that there are inbuilt utilities available to look into the number of messages it has processed. So for a couple of things we need to understand before we go and decide, right? It could be Kafka, it could be anything else. So we want to understand general concepts are what we are going to monitor. One is always going to be your server specific metrics, and then this heap specific metrics, and then what is that component is doing. Is it processing a message? Is it doing some execution? It is doing some batch processing, what it is doing. And then for that, what kind of metrics we are going to look into it. Number of record processed or number of file processed, number of messages ingested, number of messages in the queue. So we next things we need to understand, depending upon the actual component, we will try to define those counters. So defining the counters, understanding what are the tools available within the component, and then getting access to it, and then putting that into a monitoring strategy, right? That is how we typically handle any architecture components, and that is what we will discuss during that course as well, right? How do we go and write this monitoring strategy? How do you address it?
So for database tuning, right? I see you are already covering a few things on AWR. So are we also going to cover the query optimization and studying the hash map and all those things?
Okay, see, from this engineering course, right? We can go along covering a lot of things actually, because it's a very wide area. But the course is tailored for this 25 to 27 hours, and typically what is the minimum required, right? From a database perspective, as I said earlier, we will look into a couple of important bottlenecks that we encounter, right? Be it is going to be problem with the parsing or caching, and related to that, we will understand how this tuning will happen, how this optimization will happen, and then within that AWR reports, what are things which we are going to analyze it. And from a query tuning perspective, we will look into one or two aspects, but not complete query tuning optimizations. It is going to be more of a Oracle database analysis the bottleneck related to the your caching, or your parsing. So and then the database process architecture, memory architecture. That is what we look into from a database Oracle perspective. Will not go in depth into the DB tuning. So because database engineering, database performance engineering itself is a separate role. It will have a lot of things into that, setting up your SGAs, PGAs, tuning your SGA, PGA. Right? All these things are very in-depth topics within database itself, which will require some 7 to 8 hours by itself. Right? So if you are looking for database only tuning, database only engineering, right? That itself is a separate course that people offer, Isha offers. So this is more from a application performance engineering, and that various topic is tailored for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Satish, yeah. Any open source tools for database monitoring like Tick and
Open source tool for database monitoring. For Oracle, you're asking, is it? I don't see a open source but this see, if you have Oracle, this AWR reports, AWR analysis, OEM, everything comes along with the Oracle license. You don't need a open source at all. From a server level monitoring, anything is same. There's a database server or app server. We can use this Tick stack to monitor the OS level metrics, your server level metrics. But to get into these cache hit ratio, your library cache, or your parsing efficiency, DB time, all these things, you would need a proper tool to get into it. There is no open source available for getting this data. You have to rely on AWR reports or the tools like Dynatrace or AppDynamics. To my knowledge, for these Oracle database, there is no other open source tool available. If you go to the NoSQL database, like Elasticsearch or Influx, yeah, there are inbuilt tool available within these NoSQL itself, like Kibana is there to monitor Elasticsearch. So there are tools available within the open source stack itself to monitor these things for NoSQL database. But for Oracle, yeah, we have to rely on AWR, Oracle Enterprise Manager, or the AppDynamics kind of a tool.
or network, is it the same? Like
network, again, it's a very funny thing, right? There are tools available which we do it. While you do, we also will cover that how do we troubleshoot problem with the network during the session. But we typically use your tracer command or ping command to understand the latency between two components. See, there are a lot of times where the problem is going to be between your load generators to your application server, because of which response time in load runner will be high, but in the Dynatrace or AppDynamics, response time will be low. And there is going to be a problem between component to component, within the application to database, application to middleware. There is going to be a latency problems. Right? So to understand all these things, we typically use, we as a performance tester or engineers, we use this tracer command or top command, running it from your load generators or from your application server. But the network engineers, they might have the other set of complicated tools, like there are tools from Cisco and other things, where they use it for monitoring the entire production environments, right? But we as a performance tester or engineer, we will use these tracert or ping for troubleshooting the response time problem, which we will also cover it during the session. Okay. So tomorrow, the plan is tomorrow we are going to start the course. Okay. And then before even we get into the day one, right, the Java basics, we'll also try to go and look into a little bit in depth of individual topics for you to get some more understanding what we do within these individual topics. And then we will get into the day one of the Java basics and programming. That is the plan.
That is for client-side analysis, what we are doing. This is Rajshekar speaking.
Client-side analysis, it is very complete. right? What are the source of these various client-side metrics? What are the various APIs that are available in the browser, navigation APIs, paint time APIs? We look into various metrics. What we'll typically look into it, the client-side approach. How do we go and test it with cache, without cache? And then we'll also look into various recommendations, optimization. We'll create some problems in the code, and we'll see how to a couple of optimization also. We'll look into the from a client-side profiling perspective. Let me go and probably open that slide. Yeah, so this is what we'll learn during the client side. So your browser server communication, why client side is important on top of the Lotus thing. Why do we do it? How do we do it? What is the top-down approach as a first-time user, a repeated user? And then we'll also go and understand the APIs, your Paint APIs, your navigation APIs. We'll go to the Chrome browser. We'll execute the formulas, and then all these comparison, all the reported. Profiling optimization. So what are the various ways we can optimize your resources, client side, all these things in example we will try to learn. So this is a complete client side engineering is what we will learn.
Are we using any tools here, or we're just going with the Google Lighthouse or some other tools?
We will it won't be a tool dependent. Lighthouse, Dynatrace, there are a lot of tools to do this. But we will go one step below. As an engineer, we'll try to see how we can do it without even any other tools. Okay, with just using a developer tool, how can we do everything? What are typical Dynatrace or your Dynatrace will do it, right? That is what we'll try to learn. Because tool will give all these things. When you want to run a Dynatrace, we run a Dynatrace, it will provide you the metrics and the recommendation. But how do we do it without even a tool? That is what we learn it, so that it will be easy for you to analyze it with any other tool. Lighthouse can be today, tomorrow it won't be there. Dynatrace won't be there. We'll try to understand the source of all this data, and then to you can improve the page performance and optimization.
Yeah. Thank you, Satish.
Yeah, hi.
Satish,
Yeah, guys.
what is the registration process for course registration? So directly we need to contact with in WhatsApp.
Yeah, you can reach out to Kumar sir, right? And then you can register yourself for the session that is going to start from tomorrow. Yes, you can message me, or you can directly enroll with Kumar sir. You can any question related to the course fees, and then registration. You can reach out to Mr. Kumar. He is there in our WhatsApp group as well. There are a couple of admins in the WhatsApp group who you can reach out to. And if you have any more questions, you can message me, or if you wanted to have any quick discussion, right? You can also do it today, so that you uh, uh, get comfortable with what you're going to learn during the next 4 to 5 weeks.
Satish, tomorrow's session is also a demo session, right?
Tomorrow so tomorrow we'll start the session, okay? But I think you can still join that, but ideally we will start from tomorrow. Yeah, okay, fine, guys. So I think we'll stop here for today, okay? So as I said, if you want to have any more questions about course details or course fees, you can reach out to the group admins or Mr. Kumar. And if you have any questions on the course content, any other questions, you can reach out to me or through the WhatsApp, or we can have a quick call as well today. And tomorrow we'll start the session. Tomorrow will also be a demo session where you can attend. Okay, fine, guys. So we'll stop here, and then recorded video also will be available for this session as well. Will be posted in the group. Any question? Let us know, guys. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, guys. I'll just go and stop the recording. Yeah. Thanks a lot for your time, and we'll meet again.